The day that disrupted my understanding of normalcy started like any other. The customary routine of school and social engagements diminished as I crossed the door of my house. I expected an unoccupied residence, a refuge of isolation for relaxation and rejuvenation. Nevertheless, destiny seems to have alternative intentions as I opened the front door, met by an unsettling quiet, interrupted solely by the gentle hum of the refrigerator. The persistent recall of the ESS enveloped me as the late afternoon light illuminated the room, producing elongated shadows on the wooden flooring and suffusing the space with a golden glow. In a scene of calm and home quiet, I discarded my bag. I sank onto the sofa, its weight reflecting the day's worries, and proceeded to the kitchen, seeking comfort in the old routine of a snack and a brief minute of contemplation, when a faint sound, barely perceptible, captured my attention. I halted, exerting effort to discern the origin. My interest was aroused. It was a gentle, rhythmic murmur, a sound that suggested a closeness I could not quite identify. Fascinated, I was compelled by the music, my footfall muted as I advanced cautiously. As I advanced down the corridor towards my sister. Upon observing Alice's bedroom, I noted that the door was slightly ajar, providing a tantalizing view of the interior. A wave of apprehension surged through me, compelling me to retreat in deference to her privacy. However, the allure of the unknown and the urge to comprehend the origin of those captivating sounds became irresistible. I inclined nearer, scrutinizing. Through the fissure in the door, my pulse raced, illuminated by the gentle afternoon light. Alice lay with her eyes closed, her face serene. In a state of tranquil satisfaction, her hands glided rhythmically over her body, releasing a gentle sigh. I was immobilized, my thoughts swirling from the unforeseen vision of a wave, while her lips moved with each breath. A sensation of warmth enveloped me, a blend of bewilderment and intrigue that I could not grasp. I remained there, conflicted between the need to avert my gaze and the yearning for comprehension. Confronted by the unknown feelings surging within me, I saw the necessity to withdraw and recede. I entered the corridor and feigned ignorance. Although my feet stayed still, my attention was transfixed on her, enthralled by the spectacle before me. Each elegant movement and gentle sigh prompted a surge of unforeseen emotions within me. Aurora captivated me with her alluring curves, her countenance a portrait of utter satisfaction, just as I resolved to avert my gaze. Her eyes opened abruptly. My heart raced. The apprehension of exposure induced a surge of terror. Through me, her eyes conveyed gentle warmth rather than shock or fury, presenting an unexpected invitation, while her sweet, musical voice urged me to approach. "Enter, Carter." She said her words softly, a captivating melody that enticed me into her illicit domain for an instant. I experienced hesitation. I questioned whether I had misheard her invitation, yet she smiled knowingly, imbued with a touch of mischief, and reiterated her request. Her voice, now infused with gentle firmness, dispelled any doubt, compelling my legs, seemingly possessed by an autonomous will, to carry me across the room. My heart raced with a blend of trepidation and excitement as I stood beside her bed. The atmosphere was charged with a tangible tension, an implicit energy that united us. Aurora was silent, her deep-set eyes locking into mine, displaying a multitude of emotions. She was unable to interpret. I attempted to initiate conversation, to alleviate the stillness that lingered between us. However, my thoughts were a tumult of perplexity, and my voice was constricted in my throat. Perceiving my discomfort, she extended her hand and softly grasped mine. Her touch was simultaneously comforting and stimulating. She drew me nearer, and I settled onto the bed's edge alongside her, her fingers entwined with mine, directing my palm over the contour of her hip, her warmth emanating through my grasp. My breath caught when I sensed the soft rise and fall of her chest, the beat of her life pulsating beneath my fingertips. "Do not fear," Carter murmured, her voice a calming salve to my apprehensions. I allowed myself to feel. I nodded, uncertain whether I was more anxious or exhilarated. Her fingers continued to guide mine, communicating through a silent language of touch and exploration, creating a synchronized dance of forbidden desires. Each touch ignited a spark within me, deepening our connection with every moment. It felt as though we were bridging a gap, our souls reaching out to connect in a manner that transcended verbal communication. This was not merely a physical bond, it was a meeting of souls, an intimacy that surpassed the confines of our illicit desires. The external world faded away, leaving only the two of us suspended in a bubble of shared vulnerability, entwined in a dance of forbidden longing for a secret. The symphony unfolded within the serene confines of her bedroom, where time appeared to decelerate, with each breath and touch extending into infinity. The tension between us escalated into a peak of unexpressed wants, culminating in a moment of intense anticipation as Aurora drew me close, her body crushed against mine, her warmth enveloping me like a wildfire. Her lips grazed my ear, and her voice, a gentle murmur, elicited goosebumps up my spine. "Remain with me, Carter," she implored, her tone imbued with a subtle eagerness that caused my heart to race. I could not have departed even if I desired to. The magnetic allure of her presence was too potent to withstand. We were ensnared in this instant, united as souls. As the external world merged, fading into insignificance, I leaned in towards our lips. Inches apart, the warmth of her breath intertwined with mine, time appeared to halt, the cosmos pausing as we balanced on the brink of something illicit, something inescapable. The atmosphere was charged with expectancy, a tangible tension that caused my skin to quiver. And just as I seemed the moment may dissipate, Aurora approached, her lips gently brushing mine, transmitting a surge of warmth throughout my body. Initially, it was a cautious exploration, a subtle inquiry, but it soon intensified as her lips pressed more firmly against mine, her hand continuing to guide mine with an unspoken language of need. The kiss was gentle and sensitive, imbued with a passion that was both overpowering and soothing. It seemed to encapsulate all unexpressed feelings and forbidden desires in one singular, clandestine instant. Our breaths intertwined, our heartbeats aligned, and our bodies united in motion. We capitulated to the illicit, our spirits interwoven in a ballet of fervor and susceptibility. We remained ensconced in that embrace for what seemed like an eternity. The external world has neglected our physical forms. Trembling with a mutual passion, Aurora finally withdrew slightly, her forehead resting against mine, her eyes half closed as she regained her breath. A little grin graced her lips, an indication of happiness that caused my heart to expand. "Are you well?" she whispered, her voice almost perceptible yet imbued with a love that encompassed me in a cocoon of warmth and acceptance. I nodded silently, my heart brimming with inexpressible feelings. She smiled gently with her fingers. She gently brushed my hair as she leaned in again, her lips almost touching my cheek before she withdrew. The room was enveloped in a pleasant, tranquil peace, and the tension that had previously pervaded the atmosphere was supplanted by a gentle, radiant satisfaction. We remained silent for a while, sitting together as our breaths gradually diminished the tremendous heat between us, transforming it into something more profound. After a little moment of intimacy, Aurora laid her head on my shoulder, prompting me to reflexively encircle her with my arm, drawing her somewhat nearer. We sat entwined, the final rays of afternoon light permeating the room and creating gentle shadows. The subdued noises of the house permeated the environment, serving as a subtle reminder of reality. Externally, the dynamics between us were novel, fragile, and completely unexplored. In that moment, nothing else was significant. What mattered was our shared experience, a rare and profoundly personal connection that went beyond verbal expression, something we could only sense, and for the time being, that sufficed. It was as we remained. The peaceful familiarity between us seems to intensify with each passing instant. The sun was setting, throwing a warm amber glow over everything, imparting a dreamy, dreamlike look to the space, despite the stillness and palpable energy that lingered, heavy with the recollection of recent events. Despite our mutual silence, it seemed as though we were in a state of anticipation, caught in a tension that had yet to totally dissipate. I sensed Alice's body relax against mine, her head drawing nearer. Her hand lay softly on my thigh, a delicate, lingering contact that silently conveyed that our connection was far from concluded. My heart continued to pulsate in a consistent, exhilarating rhythm, a peculiar amalgamation of exhilaration and apprehension flowing within me. I was very aware of her presence, the warmth of her skin, the softness of her breath, and the subtle fragrance of her perfume remaining in the air as she inclined her head. Her lips brushed against the side of my neck in a barely perceptible touch that elicited thrills down my spine. The delicate touch created a flame within me, evolving into a gradual, simmering warmth. I shut my eyes, allowing the sensation to envelop me before turning to meet her stare, her eyes locked onto mine, exuding a newfound intensity, something deeper and more electrifying than the previous gentleness I had observed. Remained present, however, now it was imbued with a subdued need that reflected my own. Alice's fingers started tracing gentle, delicate circles on my leg without uttering a word. Each touch spoke more than words ever could, her quiet movements communicated all I needed to understand. As we remained in that intense, unarticulated connection, I leaned in and captured her. The kiss resumed with no hesitation or timid exploration, it intensified with a fierce haste, releasing the forbidden impulses we had both suppressed. Her hand ascended my chest, her fingers entwining in my shirt as she drew me nearer, her body conforming to mine, the warmth of her touch eliciting chills. The aroma of her subtle blend of lavender and vanilla permeated my senses. The allure of our hug, compounded by the fact that she was my stepmother, an ever-elusive figure, intensified the pleasure and risk, imparting a tantalizing quality to our illicit interaction. I could not refute the want that enveloped me and the desire to go nearer to investigate the profundities of this unforeseen bond. A voice in my subconscious cautioned that this was erroneous, yet I disregarded it. Enraptured by her allure, Alice's hands grasped the nape of my neck, drawing me down while she repositioned herself on the bed. As my body sank into the plush cushions, I adhered to her guidance, drawn by an irresistible force. Between us, irresistible, I quickly found myself hovering over her arms. Supported on both sides of her head, my gaze met hers, her chest rose and fell with each quick breath, her eyes reflecting the intensity of my own. Yearning, she extended her fingers, outlining the contour of my jaw, eliciting thrills up my spine before drawing me down for another fervent kiss. Her hands traversed my back and shoulders, compelling me to draw nearer until no distance remained between us. The warmth emanating from her body surrounded me, her heart beating in synchrony with mine. With a frenetic cadence that mirrored the tumult of our feelings, I glided my hand along her side. As my fingers traced the contour of her waist, pausing just at the edge of her blouse, I had a moment of hesitation. I was uncertain if I was overstepping a limit, although she subtly arched her back in quiet. The invitation dispelled any remaining uncertainties, my finger glided beneath the fabric, and as I encountered the velvety warmth of her skin, a gentle gasp escaped her lips, igniting a new surge of desire within me. Alice's hands entwined in my hair, drawing me nearer as she intensified the kiss, her lips parting to present a taste of her illicit sweetness, a blend of cherry lip gloss and an essence distinctly her own, overwhelming my senses as the world faded away. Leaving only the two of us ensnared in a tempest of illicit wants, her touch, her taste, and her fragrance were utterly devouring and seductive. I sensed the strain in her body and the intensity in her motions, realizing that at this moment, nothing else was significant save our entanglement in a dance of forbidden love. We found ourselves in a realm of our own creation, as the barriers that previously divided us disintegrated as we yielded to the repressed impulses that had lingered under the surface for an extended period. The consequences of our actions hung palpably, an implicit reminder of the boundary we had transgressed, yet in that instant, neither of us appeared to be significant. The only significance lay in the magnetic attraction between us, the irrefutable bond that had captivated us. Alice's hands traversed my body with a need that reflected mine own. A touch glided over my shoulders, down my arms, and across my chest, as if she sought to bridge an insatiable want, and I experienced a similar sentiment. Every touch and caress kindled a latent fire inside me, as though we had restrained ourselves for an extended period. Now that the floodgates had been breached, the torrent of our desire was unstoppable. She sighed gently against my lips, her fingers entwined in my hair and her body close to mine. Pressing closer to me, the sound elicited a profound response within, igniting a renewed flood of need that coursed through my veins. Her flavor, her aroma, the warmth of her presence against me, all of it was overpowering, heightening every nerve and intensifying every sense in that moment. I realized we had entered a realm from which retreat was impossible. I momentarily withdrew. My eyes sought hers, requiring confirmation of her presence and want for this as fervently as I did. In her sight, I discovered the affirmation I sought. There was unequivocal certainty and no reluctance, only a fervent yearning that paralleled my own. Without uttering a word, she beckoned me closer, her fingers interlacing with my shirt, drawing me down toward her with a silent desire as our lips reunited. I relinquished. Despite any residual uncertainties over the illicit attraction that had captivated us both, the tension was palpable, with each touch and kiss drawing us nearer to the precipice. Her body shifted beneath me, her hands traversing my flesh, accompanied by gentle, breathless moans. Ignited the passion within me, affecting every aspect of my being. We were interwoven. Our bodies, breaths, and souls were intertwining in a manner that was beyond logic. There was no evasion from the formidable allure of our transformation, nor any denial of the profundity of our bond. Her fingertips glided over my chest, eliciting a surge of warmth. Her body arched beneath mine in a nonverbal invitation, to which I responded with each touch and murmured phrase, immersing us more into the moment's intensity. Until just the two of us were confined within a realm exclusively of our creation. The creation escalated in intensity, culminating in tension that peaked, although we were unprepared to relinquish. Not yet, we clung to one another, relishing the exhilaration of our illicit bond, cognizant that we were teetering on the brink of something untamed. Remarkable, we remained on the brink, caught in a frantic dance of expectation. The tension between us intensified with every furtive gaze and each illicit touch. I sensed Aurora trembling. Below me, her breath came in uneven gasps as she clutched to my body. Smashed into mine with an intensity that disoriented me. The tension was palpable, a chorus of unexpressed needs and prohibited yearnings resonating in the silent room, and suddenly, as if compelled by an unseen influence, we yielded to the fervor that had been brewing between us, our bodies entwining. In the rhythmic dance of illicit pleasure, I realized that nothing would ever remain unchanged. We had transgressed a boundary and entered the uncharted. The allure of the forbidden and the captivating nature of our bond eclipsed any apprehension regarding repercussions as the intensity diminished. Our breaths intertwined, merging in the still air, while the external world diminished into irrelevance. The room was illuminated by the gentle radiance of twilight, with the final remnants of daylight creating elongated shadows on the walls. As I observed her, she appeared to be fully aware, absorbing every detail, the blush of her cheeks, the glitter in her eyes, the manner in which her hair flowed over the pillow. It was a moment of deep closeness. The recognition of our lives being irrevocably intertwined. What now? I asked, my voice scarcely audible, apprehensive of disrupting the enchantment surrounding us. Aurora lifted her fingers, delicately tracing the contour of my jaw, a gentle smile illuminating her lips as she said with calm resolve. We traversed this journey collectively, and we were both aware of the forthcoming route. Despite the risks and potentially terrible repercussions of our actions, laying alongside her and bathed in her warmth instilled in me an unflinching conviction that we would confront whatever obstacles arose together, our love serving as a guiding beacon. As we navigated the darkness, the burden of our transgressions and the potential repercussions of our illicit love overshadowed us like a looming storm, but, in the serene closeness of that moment, those apprehensions were remote, nearly trivial. We spent the night intertwined, articulating a tapestry of our anxieties, aspirations, and wants. The encounter was surreal, this illicit closeness that seemed very natural. In the subsequent weeks, we engaged in a careful maneuver of discretion. In the presence of others, we upheld the pretense of our stepmother-stepson connection. Our encounters were meticulously calibrated, with words imbued with a nuanced subtext comprehensible only to us. However, in those stolen moments of solitude, a mere glance and a transient touch conveyed the profundity of our connection. It was not always simple to dispel skepticism. Signal your acknowledgement to us. Guilt overshadowed our stolen moments, and the apprehension of exposure persisted. I recall the initial instance of hearing my father's key turn in the lock, our hearts racing as we hurried to extricate ourselves from the adrenaline, leaving us breathless and unsettled. However, over time, we became more skilled at concealing our secret, relishing the illicit moments, while upholding a facade of normalcy. Approximately 1 month following that memorable occasion, Aurora and I were nestled on the sofa viewing a film. My father was working late, leaving us without the accustomed comfort that let us indulge in our forbidden desires as the credits concluded. Aurora faced me, her demeanor grave. Carter started with a gentle tone. Nevertheless, it is imperative that we discuss the future. My heart raced. What is your meaning? I inquired, a knot of apprehension constricting in my chest. She grasped my hand, her thumb delineating soft circles on my palm. The connection between us transcends the physical, at least, it does for me. A flood of relief enveloped me, accompanied by a warmth that permeated my being. With my entire essence, I responded, my voice just above a whisper, it transcends the corporeal for me as well. I believe I am experiencing romantic feelings. Alice's grin was bright, a light of hope that dispelled the gloom around our forbidden love. She pressed her lips against mine in a gentle kiss. I believe I am also developing feelings of love for you. She confessed, her voice gently soothing, although the beauty of that moment introduced a fresh array of obstacles we both recognized would arise if our connection were revealed. Profound anguish and bewilderment for individuals in our vicinity. The burden of our secrets and the perpetual anxiety of exposure creates a pall. As time elapsed, our bond intensified, and our love strengthened with each day. We developed nonverbal communication to anticipate each other's needs and get comfort from the closeness of our clandestine connection, yet the dread of exposure persisted as a continual reminder of the fragile nature of our relationship. There were near misses. Moments of sheer panic when discovery seemed imminent, like the time my best friend Sarah dropped by unannounced her unexpected arrival, sending us scrambling to conceal our entwined bodies, or the night my father returned home early, forcing us to fabricate a believable scenario to explain our compromising position. Each close call heightened our anxiety, reminding us of the fragility of our secret and the potential for devastation that loomed over us, and then one particularly close call, a near miss that left us both shaken, ignited our first real argument. Emotions ran high, words were exchanged, and the fragile peace we had carefully constructed threatened to shatter. The argument, fueled by a potent cocktail of fear and insecurity, escalated quickly. Harsh words like daggers pierced the fragile peace we had carefully constructed, and I stoked out the slam of the door, echoing the turmoil within me. I spent the night driving aimlessly, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of my own confused emotions. Hurt and anger battled within me, the weight of our secret relationship threatening to crush me, but as dawn painted the horizon with hues of hope and renewal, I found myself back at our doorstep, drawn by an invisible tether, a longing that transcended my anger. Aurora opened the door before I could even raise my hand to knock. Her eyes red framed her expression, reflecting my own fatigue and remorse. Silently, we embraced one another, flowing unimpeded as we expressed remorse for the severe remarks and the inadvertent injuries inflicted in a moment of passion. That conflict was terrible, yet it strengthened our link, leading to the conviction that our love was worth defending. Determined to shield our aspirations from external scrutiny, we started discussions about the future, imagining a life together in which we could really express ourselves, free from the constraints of concealment. We anticipated that our revelation would elicit shock and disappointment, possibly even anger from those nearest to us. However, as we sat together envisioning a shared future, a sense of hope blossomed within me, fostering a belief that our love could endure the impending turmoil as months progressed, further strengthening our bond. Through furtive glances and clandestine meetings, we mastered the art of dual existence, fluidly shifting between the personas of dutiful stepmother and affectionate stepson, as well as passionate lovers concealed from societal scrutiny. Nonetheless, the pretense was unsustainable. As the anniversary of our initial meeting neared, the burden of our secret intensified. Recognized it was time to emerge from obscurity, to confront the repercussions of our decisions, and to accept the uncertainty that awaited. We devoted weeks to meticulously preparing our confession. With hearts racing from a blend of trepidation and expectation, we mustered our resolve on a tranquil Sunday afternoon and convened with my father, prepared to disclose The debate was laden with passion, tears, and raised voices resonating throughout. The room was marked by intervals of stunned silence, yet as I grasped Alice's hand, her presence a wellspring of strength and solace, I recognized that we were making the correct decision. The path ahead would be arduous, laden with bridges to reconstruct and trust to restore. However, as we confronted the uncertain future together, I found myself contemplating the journey that had culminated in this pivotal afternoon. Upon discovering Alice's secret, everything transformed. Despite the anguish, obstacles, and apprehension of judgment, I would not alter a single aspect, for that unforeseen insight into her life led me to an extraordinary love that transcended all expectations. As I gazed at Alice, her eyes reflecting my steadfast devotion, I realized that whatever challenges awaited us, we would confront them together, our love and indomitable bond guiding us through adversity.